Hello all. This is part 3 of solving this hypothetical technical requirement that we have taken. And in part 1 we actually solved using callbacks, and in part 2 we solved using promises, and now in this video we're going to solve the same using async await. In part 1 we actually wrote this hypothetical technical requirement using callbacks, and then in part 2 we actually solve the same problem using promises and util.promisify, and this is the piece of code. So in this video what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply copy paste this, okay, and name it as async await. So I'll simply rename it to async await. So now I'll directly go there to index.js file, and here I'll convert this and make sure it will use async await. So before diving in and converting the code, we need to understand, if I wanted to await on something, I can await on a promise. And in our piece of code, if you directly see, all these are promises, and also I use .thenable statements. So as these are promises, directly I can go ahead and put await before those functions. But there is also one more catch here. The thing is, whenever I wanted to use await, all I have to do is in my function, if you look at here, I need to make it as async. I need to put this async before the function, otherwise await keyword will not work. Okay, let's start converting one function after the other into async await. So particularly first, this is promise, so I can directly go ahead and await before it, and then I'm not doing anything with the data here, so I can directly await before this function, and I'm playing around with the result that I've got from it. So simply what I can do is I'll remove let result equal to await. That's it. So first statement is done, and second statement is done, and the third statement is again. So I'm getting I'm passing the result, whatever I've got, I'm passing the user ID into this function. So here I'll take another variable and I'll name it as final result. Final result equal to, I can put await before it, and then finally I can console log final result. Instead of result, what I'm supposed to keep it here is I am supposed to put final result. So I'll remove this, and try catch, this is how we are going to write try catch. So I'm going to put everything, the piece of code here in the try block, and then in catch block I'm going to simply catch if any errors come. Okay, so this is simply error console. That's it. We successfully converted the promises. Okay, previously we have .thenable statements, but now we have await statements in our code. Let's try to execute it and check it. Okay, I opened the terminal and I'll navigate to the respective folder, that is async await, and then I'm going to simply run node index.js. Success. If you see the previous videos, we've got the same result as previous videos. The thing is, the only difference is instead of callbacks and promises, we actually used async await. Basically, we awaited on the promises, and then finally we refactored the code in such a way that it actually uses async await. So what exactly is happening here? Let's try to understand. Basically, the control will come here, and the moment it encounters here, technically, okay, it's actually stopping. It's not actually stopping, it's actually giving it to libuv, and then the main thread is going there and waiting for another connections. Okay, let's not get into that detail, but here, in order to simply understand, what we can understand here is that the control actually waits here. Okay, it will not proceed further until and unless this is executed. Once this is successful, or if any error encounters there, what happens is we are catching those errors here. It will go to the catch block directly, and once this is done, again the control will come to line number 76. Okay, here again this function, whatever function we have written to find out whether the user is active or not, is called, and it will wait there, and then finally the result will be stored here, and that result will be passed here, and again it is waiting there, and the final result will be stored in final result, and that will be printed. So anybody coming from Java background or PHP background, then the developers are very much familiar with the synchronous execution of coding, okay, line by line. But immediately, if one with that background dives into Node.js and tries to understand the entire programming language itself is async, okay. So it will take some time to understand particularly callbacks and then promises. But any new developers currently running or started learning Node.js currently, I encourage you to directly go ahead and look into async await. It will be very much easier for you to kickstart, and also particularly if you have the development experience, maybe C language or Java or any other programming language experience, then it will be much easier for you to understand async await, because it's like more of like it mimics synchronous way of execution, but technically at the background it's not synchronous, it's still asynchronous. libuv is taking care of, or event loop is taking care of all that stuff, while the main thread is still waiting to take connections from the web or user. Now, if we look at the program, basically all our functions are callbacks basically, and we used util.promisify to promise to convert them into promises, and finally so that we can await on these promises. But instead of these callbacks, if you see COGNITO identity service provider, which is AWS SDK npm package, okay, you can actually go to the official AWS documents and can actually check currently almost every library that is coming to the market, they're trying to release with promises, okay, so that you can await on those functions and can actually achieve what you wanted to achieve using async await. So let's look at AWS SDK v3 libraries, okay, and I'll just give COGNITO. And if you look at this, clearly it mentions JavaScript v3 version. If you go there, you can see instead of using callbacks, they actually have given they clearly mentioned you can actually use async await. So while choosing the library itself, it's better not to choose the callback ones, because they are the older thing, okay. But coming to newer versions, always you'll have this async await. This is basically for COGNITO. This piece of code, we can use AWS v3 library. And coming to this SQL, also the library that we used is MySql. And if you go here and directly do npm MySql, we use the callbacks one. So looking at this npm page, let's try to identify promises. Are there any promises support for this MySql? I see this is a callback, and I don't see any promises here. So let's go to their home page and check it out. And are there any promise support or not? I don't see promises here, but maybe if you're not able to find it, probably there might be another library which supports promises. So let's try our luck using MySql promise, and I see a library popping up, and let's check it out what it says. Promise -MySql is a wrapper for MySql JS, okay, that wraps function calls using Bluebird promises. So basically this is a promisified version of this library. So as a developer, it's our duty, or it's up to us to actually wisely choose the libraries which actually supports the promises, so that it will be easier for us to write the code in async await. And also any other developer who comes in future, for him also it will be easier to understand and write the code in async await. Thank you all for watching the video. If you like the video, please go ahead and like the video, share and subscribe to this channel.